Let's talk about tropical cyclones. These are very common in Fiji as they occur over tropical ocean regions. In this video, we will discuss what a tropical cyclone is and how it is formed, warning categories, wind strength, and typical damages caused by cyclones, tropical cyclone warnings, strengths and effects, and the Cyclone Action Guide. To begin with, what is a tropical cyclone? A tropical cyclone is a violent rotating windstorm that develops over tropical waters that are warmer than 26.5 degrees Celsius and located between 5 degrees and 15 degrees latitude. You can define a tropical cyclone as a pressure system developing over tropical waters and having a definite organized wind circulation with average winds of 34 knots or 63 kilometers per hour or more surrounding its center. Cyclones begin as thunderstorms due to the Earth's spin, revolving clockwise in the southern hemisphere and anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere. These storms rise up to 10 kilometers into the atmosphere and can be up to 2,000 kilometers across. As the cyclone becomes organized, a calm, clear area called the eye forms at its center. The eye is typically 10 to 50 kilometers wide and is surrounded by a dense ring of cloud known as the eye wall, which marks the belt of strongest winds. Tropical cyclones can persist for many days and follow unpredictable paths. However, in the South Pacific, they usually move southeast. The warmth of the tropical waters provides the energy to fuel cyclones. As a result, they tend to weaken and dissipate as they move over significant island landmasses or cooler waters further south, forming rain depressions. Fiji has a distant history of cyclones, with many causing widespread destruction and displacing thousands from their homes. Rated at Category 5, Tropical Cyclone Winston in 2012 was the deadliest cyclone recorded in Fiji's modern history. Most of the damage from a cyclone comes not from the strong winds but from the floods. Sometimes the tropical depression doesn't quite make it to the cyclone strength, but it brings enough torrential rain to soak the islands and cause rivers to burst their banks. This is where a lot of Fiji's disease problems come from. Cyclones can neither be prevented nor controlled. The only practical solution in minimizing their effects is by early warnings and self-preparedness. The present warning system should provide at least 24 hours specific advance warning of a cyclone, and usually 48 hours or more of advance notice of the existence of cyclones in the vicinity of Fiji. The official cyclone season in Fiji is from 1st November to 30th April. However, some very destructive cyclones have been observed to occur outside of the normal season. For example, Cyclone Baby that hit in 23rd October 1972. Strong winds at 170 miles per hour lashed the Isles of Fiji on this day, including Rotuma. This resulted in widespread damages. Thousands were left homeless, 13 people died, and a large amount of livestock were also killed. Next, we'll talk about the formation of a tropical cyclone. Tropical cyclones only form over the ocean, which provide the necessary energy for development. The ocean surface has to be relatively warm, having a sea surface temperature of 27 degrees Celsius or more. Among other conditions, there has to be an initial spin to get them going. This is often supplied by a pre-existing low-pressure trough, an area or zone of low atmospheric pressure. The conditions for cyclone formation generally exist between latitudes 5 and 20 degrees to either side of the equator. Winds around a cyclone in the southern hemisphere blow clockwise towards the center. Winds are a spiral into the cyclone, increasing in speed until they reach a maximum in a ring around the center. Inside this ring of strongest winds is a small area with light winds and fair weather known as the eye of the cyclone, usually about 25 kilometers wide. Beware of this calm eye of the cyclone. When a cyclone passes overhead, the violent winds suddenly drop for some time, usually about 1 or 2 hours, before it picks up with the same strength from the opposite direction. The dangerous gale, storm or hurricane winds surrounding a cyclone can extend hundreds of kilometers from the center and on occasions can be more than 1,000 kilometers. Keep in mind that these dangerous winds may be experienced several hours ahead of the arrival of the cyclone center. Here, we have the eye of the cyclone. Calm or light winds occur here. It has an average diameter of 25 to 50 kilometers. Secondly, just outside the eye are hurricane force winds. The average winds move at 117 kilometers per hour, or 63 knots, with gusts over 160 kilometers per hour, or 85 knots. These winds are severely damaging.
Storm surges causes rapid flooding by the sea in coastal areas, and torrential rain causes severe flooding with phenomenally high waves.
Next, closer to the eye, are storm force winds. They have an average wind speed of 88 to 117 kilometers per hour, or 48 to 65 knots, with gusts up to 160 kilometers per hour, or 85 knots. These winds are very damaging, and storm surges cause rapid flooding of seas in coastal areas, heavy rain, flooding, high to very high seas. And lastly, away from the center are gale force winds. On average, the wind here moves at 63 to 87 kilometers per hour, or at 34 to 47 knots, with gusts up to 118 kilometers per hour, or 65 knots. This is very damaging wind, accompanied by moderate or heavy rain and very rough seas. Next, let's talk about movement. Tropical cyclones usually move from lower to higher latitudes, which in our hemisphere is towards the south. However, they are known to behave very erratically at times and can basically move in any direction. Moving on, rainfall is torrential in a cyclone, falling especially from the inner ring of clouds surrounding the eye. This may cause massive landslides on hill slopes and widespread flooding in the lower reaches of the rivers. As you can see, in a major cyclone, the greatest danger from the sea comes from storm surge. This is the combined effect of the sea cyclone due to low atmospheric pressure
and the violent winds driving the swells and the waves into shallow waters as they approach the coast. Water is piled up even further if the surge enters narrowing estuaries or bays, and if it coincides
with the normal high tide. In an intense cyclone, the storm surge can easily form a dome of water up to 4 meters above the normal sea level. Next, we talk about the Tropical Cyclone Advisory System, which consists of 3 phases. Firstly, early information phase. This is general information on the cyclone which is issued in routine public weather bulletins. There is no direct threat at this stage. Secondly, alert phase. This gives information on the development of an incipient cyclone or the progress of a cyclone still some distance away. An alert bulletin is issued 24 to 48 hours before the onset of gale force winds. It is reviewed every 3 hours. Thirdly, the warning phase. A tropical cyclone warning bulletin is issued as gale warning, storm warning, and hurricane warning as soon as it becomes apparent that winds of the respective category will affect one or more populated land areas within 24 hours. Updates are issued every 3 hours. Furthermore, whenever there is a cyclone threat to Fiji, the Tropical Cyclone Warning Center, or TCWC, in Nandi will be activated. It will start issuing special weather bulletins giving tropical cyclone alerts or tropical cyclone warnings as appropriate. All special weather bulletins will be numbered sequentially, starting from bulletin number 1. Let's move on to warning categories, wind strength, and typical damages. Gale warning has an average expected wind from 63 to 87 km per hour, or 34 to 47 knots. A Beaufort force of 8 to 9, and its typical effects are very rough to high seas. It normally causes minor damage on land, mainly due to branches and loose materials. There is occasionally heavy rain. A storm warning, on the other hand, has an average expected wind from 88 to 117 kilometers per hour or 48 to 63 knots. A Beaufort force of 10 to 11 and its typical effects are high to very high seas. This causes damage to trees, crop shelters and weaker structures, and it is often accompanied by heavy rain and flooding. Hurricane warnings have an average expected wind over 117 kilometers per hour or 63 knots. A Beaufort force of 12 and its typical effects are phenomenal seas, heavy surf and abnormally high storm tides. There is severe damage done to trees, crops, overhead wires and many buildings. These warnings are usually accompanied by torrential rain and flooding. Moving on, let's talk about cyclone actions and what to do during a cyclone. Before and during the cyclone, ensure that your house and its roof are in good and safe condition. Trim tree branches well clear of your house and clear all loose material that could cause injury and damage during extreme winds. Familiarize yourself with your community disaster plan. Know your access route to the emergency shelter and nearest safe high ground should there be a need to evacuate. Prepare an emergency kit, hold ready in your home. Keep a portable radio nearby with fresh spare batteries. Also put aside a torch, fuel, lamp, candles and matches. Water containers, canned food, self-contained cooking gear and essential spare clothes. Upon a cyclone warning, stay tuned to the local radio or TV for up-to-date information. Batten down house, secure doors and windows with boards or shutters. Store documents, other valuables and clothing in plastic bags. Lock up pets, fill water containers, ensure any vehicle has sufficient fuel and is placed under a cover. Then remain indoors. During a cyclone, disconnect all electrical appliances, stay inside the shelter well clear of windows and stay in the strongest part of the house. If the house breaks up, protect yourself with mattress, rugs, blankets or tarpaulin and anchor yourself to a strong fixture or get under a strong table or bed. Don't assume the cyclone is over because if a calm period is experienced due to the eye of the cyclone, violent winds will soon resume from the opposite direction. If you happen to be caught outside, remain clear of trees, power lines and streams. Keep up to date with progress of the cyclone. Do not call the weather office for information if that could be obtained by listening to the radio. Finally, after the cyclone, don't go outside until it is advised officially that it is safe. Listen to the radio for official warnings and advice. If you had to evacuate, don't go home until advised. Be aware of fallen power lines, damaged buildings and trees and flooded watercourses. Remember, do not ignore warnings as it could cost you your life. We hope you enjoyed this lesson on cyclones.